I believe that we are currently live. And yes, we are. Yes, we are. Happy Thursday, everyone, and happy holidays.
Hey,
Once again,
everybody. Mhm.
hello, hello. Welcome once again to another fantastic episode of Transformation Greatness, along with the Small Business Network podcast. I am your host here, Shawn A. White. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, you're in for a treat. You're definitely in for a treat. This is someone here, ladies and gentlemen, just to set the stage for you a little bit. I'm not going to steal, her thunder because it's all about her. But she is someone that when I heard her story, and if you guys know me, been following me for quite some time, I love individuals that are doing such a positive work. People that can motivate, encourage, and inspire the masses with their quality of work and also as far as with their testimony. And Miss Cheryl Blunt most certainly fits the bill. I was like so blown away. Just her energy, her enthusiasm for life, creativity, and just she has a spirit of never giving up. And I love that and I admire that. So before I go ahead and bring on the amazing Miss Cheryl Blunt, do me a favor, guys, if you will. If you're catching this on the live, put in the hashtag live and let us know exactly where you're tuning in from. And of course, if you should be having to catch this on a replay, then by all means put in hashtag replay. So with no further ado, we have here a household name, which by the way that she's going, I tell you, she's gonna be on all television screens everywhere, all around the world. We have here the one, the only, and please show her some love for Miss Cheryl Blunt in the house.
Hi, Sean. Hi, everybody. I'm so humbled today to be on here. I'm truly humbled. Sean, I've been on Circle of Love, and that's where I met Sean. And I'm just humbled. I love his work. I love what he does, and to have him ask me on his podcast was very humbling and very. I was so excited to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? Just like I mentioned, it's definitely an honor and a privilege. Oh, excuse me. Look at that. I'm like, It have you ever been around a celebrity or a superstar and you got so nervous that you got tongue tied and you just didn't know as far as on what to say? That's the way I feel right now. I'm just around greatness. Man.
I
So
love it. I love you. I love your show.
thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's go ahead and jump into this bad boy here. So Miss Cheryl, I know you. Obviously we share the same community, the Circle of Love United community with First Lady Doreen Wood, aka Oprah
Yeah.
Infinity, and with Coach Beverly, aka Michelle Bomber Jr. But there's a lot of people as far as that follows me that may not be familiar with you. So maybe you can just share a little bit about of who you are and what has made Miss Cheryl Blunt the Cheryl Blunt. Take it away.
Well, I'm the owner and operator of Kids Retreat Daycare. I'm also the founder of the nonprofit Kids Retreat Family nonprofit, um, and an international author right now. So with Alive to Thrive, life after attempting suicide. Um, I don't know. First of all, like I said, I'm very humbled to be here. And what really inspired me was that the experiences that I went through as a child. I always wanted children to be protected. I love children, and all the children that have come through here. We have some fantastic kids, and that's what inspires me to watch my when I used to stay home with my children, and then to also have the children that are here now and that have been here since I started in 2018. And that's
Mm,
inspiration, children.
wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, for all those that's tuning in or just coming on board, welcome again here to Transformation Greatness along with the Small Business Network podcast. And we have here our very special guest, Miss Cheryl Blunt. Miss Cheryl, I love for the fact that you have a heart for the children. And I love for everything in which that you're doing. But obviously you didn't start from there, obviously.
No.
So maybe if you can tell us a little bit of your backstory and what gave you the moniker never giving up.
Okay. I started out as a child. When I was 11 years old, my parents divorced, and after my parents divorced, um, I we were separated from my dad, and I was molested at age 11. That was pretty rough for me. I was only 11. I didn't know who to tell. I didn't know what to do. And I started really just acting out. I wasn't sure what to do because it was a friend of our family, and a very close friend. So I started acting out. Um, my mom sent me to live with my dad when I was 12. And that's because she couldn't handle me at that time. I started drinking, I started skipping school. And I want to add this in. When I was going to school, after the molestation happened and after all the abuse, I was going to school, and I was in middle school, and I would walk to school. We had a long way to walk to school, but when I was there, I would act out because they had something called in school suspension. So I would always act out so that I could get in school suspension so that I could be alone. And another reason is because they let you out about 5 to 10 minutes earlier, and it allowed me to miss my abuser and miss my molester. I would be able to get home faster, and I wouldn't be on the same time frame that they thought I would be on.
Mm.
So my the reason I'm telling you guys this is because my principal would call my mom several times and tell her that I was too immature to be in school. But
Mhm.
little did he know, he called her several times, but little did he know I was trying to protect myself.
Right.
I was trying to protect myself. So, with all that going on, my mom thought it was best. My parents thought it was best for me to go stay with my father. And my father, he worked several jobs, so I was at home alone a lot. Um, and while I was there, of course, um, I got into prostitution. I got into sex trafficking first, then prostitution. A lot of older men from my hometown engaged me in different things. So that's where my start came from. I was a kid. I started at 11 years old. I had to act like a grown up, and I never had a chance to be a child. I never had
Mhm.
a chance to just be a kid. And that's where the kids retreat childcare came from. I just wanted kids to be able to come here and have, be able to have a good time and be safe and feel like, hey, I'm at grandma's house. I'm okay here.
Right.
And that's where
Right.
Kids Retreat LLC came from.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And you know what? That is something that is amazing too and very powerful because listening to your story, first and foremost, there are so many young women that's out there, right? That's been in
Yeah.
that situation or know someone that's been in that situation, and yet to even have the courage to even say something is incredible. Me personally, I can't even imagine on the type of emotions and feelings in which that you can be having, let alone to even try to articulate and even express it. Right? Were there instances in which that you felt like that? Obviously, as you
Yes.
was going through that stage.
Yes, I kept a lot of things silent. A lot of my closer friends knew, but I had a lot of older women that were my friends because I was in the street. And
Right.
when I was in the street, I didn't know anything. I was a kid. I was 12 years old. 13, 14 years old. So I got myself in a lot of bad situations. And there was some older women in my hometown that really helped me. You know, they gave me a coat when I was cold. They let me stay at their house for days at a time. I mean, these women really took me in. And yes, it was hard. I didn't really tell the whole story until 2019. And that was a long time. I went through a 26-year marriage before I even told my whole story. I would give bits and pieces here and there, and I would try to help people along the way, but I never told the complete story about how, I went down that road and I would go to hotels and men would be waiting outside. At that time, that's how they sex traffic. We had hotels, and there would
Mm,
be a hotel outside of town, and then we would have a room, and then they would invite other men, which were super older, some of them older than my father and my
wow.
mother. So that's what happened to me as a child. And I kind of just always had a smile on my face. I would always try to laugh because if I even thought about everything that I had went through, that was really hard for me. And I was by myself a lot.
Right.
I didn't have my family with me.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, for all those that's tuning in, once again here to Transformation Greatness along with the Small Business Network podcast. We have here Miss Cheryl Blunt, aka Never Give Up. I mean, like just listening to that, it's like wow, like man, incredible. So what okay, at what point in your life where you say, you know what, enough is enough? And when did you start to adopt that never give up mentality? Like at what stage?
Well, the let me just go back a minute because
Yeah,
I do
let's go
have
back
to
a bit.
say there was more.
Absolutely.
The drug addictions, I had multiple drug addictions. Cocaine was my choice of drug. At first, I started snorting, and then I started smoking. So I was a crack, what they call is a crackhead. And I remember when my daughter, well, let me just go back.
Yeah,
At
come on.
14 years old, I was brutally raped by a man that had just came out of prison, had been out of prison about 2 weeks. I was brutally raped. He held me hostage by gunpoint. And that was a moment I thought I didn't think I was going to go home. And that
Mm,
morning, I was so humiliated because I was thankful, first of all, that I even got out of that situation alive. But I was humiliated because I was walking home and I saw all the kids my age going to school. I saw parents taking kids to school. I saw kids getting on the bus. And I saw people that I knew passing me by that I was like, wow, my hair is messed up, my clothes are torn off. I was just a mess. And it was really early in the morning. And I thought, wow, they're not even stopping for me. And I had to walk a couple miles to get home. And I was very humiliated. It was a very humiliating situation as a kid. When I got home, I made a phone call. I wasn't sure what to do, and I made a phone call to someone that I truly loved, and I didn't get the response that I thought I was going to get.
right,
So I sat there, and that was the first time I tried to commit suicide. That was the very first time that I tried to commit suicide. And then um, I just started after that. It was just a really bad downward spiral. I started doing a lot of drugs. And like I said, I started on cocaine. And I remember seeing my baby when I was on the floor. I was looking for more rocks. And I remember there wasn't any more, but I kept thinking I had dropped something. And I'm looking at my baby and her hair is all over her head. And, I'm thinking, this just can't be right. I need to change my life. And I sent my child home to my daughter home to be with my parents. And that was the start of the beginning of trying to get my life somewhat together and trying to share when I could.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Wow. 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 Yeah, that is when we listen to that, it can go in so many different ways, right? so many different ways, so many emotions, so many circumstances could have came out of that. But and this is the reason why that I love this podcast of which I'm doing, because I get an opportunity to have individuals that come on, right, that's willing to share their experiences, and not necessarily more so just, highlighting a story and talking about, the gory stuff, but really there is like a silver lining to this, right?
Yeah.
And it
Mm.
shows individuals like basically you your past could have been the way that it was, but it's not about your past, it's about your present. And it's
Yes.
about what are you doing as far as to improve your future self. So, Cheryl, because I'm pretty sure there's probably gonna be someone that's listened to this and they're like, okay, yeah, I can I deal with that, but I'm not ready to share. I'm not ready to share whatsoever. What would be your recommendation for that individual? Like, in other words, what steps can they do to get to the healing process? Because obviously something that's that traumatic, I know there's a lot of individuals that would be willing to take that to the grave.
Yes. Yes, and I ended up in a mental ward at the hospital because I had a nervous breakdown in my 26-year marriage. I just couldn't hold it anymore.
Mhm.
So what made me share is because I wanted the weight to come off. I wanted the pain to stop. I couldn't function as a wife and a mother with all this weight, and I wasn't able to get it off. And I was holding it in. My husband didn't even know half the things that I had been through.
Right.
And I was scared to share, but that was the only thing that was going. I was tired of faking it. I was tired of
Mm,
faking it like I was okay, but I was really broken. I was a
mm,
broken individual, and I brought all that brokenness into my marriage, and we started having problems. And I just couldn't. I I needed to heal the past in order to move forward into my future. And I would suggest to anybody that's being authentic. That's being your true self. I was never able to be this free. I didn't even know what I liked. I mean, I was so submissive to everybody else's needs that I
mm.
didn't even know who I was. I mean, literally, I was just walking around. I, I don't know what world I was in, to be honest with you, but I know that it was the best thing that I did was to seek therapy, to ask for help, and to not stay broken. You can't stay broken and keep moving forward. At some point, you're going to break, and you don't want to do that with other people. You want to be able to be in a safe space where
Right.
you can heal. I think it's very important to ask for help early on. I think it's
Okay.
very important to admit that, hey, I'm broken. There's things that broke me, and I need to fix that. And I teach my kids that. I teach my kids that because they went through a dysfunctional marriage. Um, they went through a lot of dysfunction because
Right.
I wasn't healed.
Right.
And me and my brothers, we went through dysfunction because you learn from what you know. And
Correct.
so that's what you do. I only knew that way. And it wasn't until that I said, hey, I want to change and I don't want to be this way anymore. I don't want to raise my kids this way anymore. I don't want to be this way anymore. That was when things started changing for me and my family.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
So basically, you got to a point where you was just sick and tired of being sick and tired in
Yes.
order to. Okay. Well, yeah,
Yes.
that makes a lot of sense. So tell us more about Kids Retreat LLC, because you touched bases on that earlier. So maybe you can go
Mhm.
more into detail. What, like, how did that idea come to pass? And even so much of the idea, what made you decide to make it into a business? Because there's a lot of individuals, Miss Cheryl, that they fancy with the idea. They're like, okay, well, I'll do it one day. I'll do it one day. and they never really take no action on it. So, what for you, Miss Cheryl, made you say, you know what? Not only would this be an idea, not only would this be something that I can see, right, as being a reality, but what was that thing that said, you know what? I'm going to do this thing no matter what, and I'm not looking back.
Well, when my kids were younger, my husband allowed me to stay home with them to take care of them because I didn't want anybody to hurt my kids. I didn't want them with someone else. I felt like I could take care of them the best. I did have to go to work a couple times and they stayed with other people, but my idea was, hey, I want to do this daycare. I want to do it in home, but I had to be able to make money to do it.
Hmm.
So what I did was I started watching a few kids at a time, and I started doing that first, and it was called Love and Cuddles.
Okay.
And I started doing that, and then I started all the kids from around the neighborhood would just flock to our house. And
Mm.
so we had all the kids all the time. And that was where I got the idea from. And I loved doing that until I decided, hey, I want to pursue the executive job that I always wanted to do. And so I started working as a with the contractor with the state, with the food stamp program and stuff like that. So I was able to work there as a supervisor.
Nice.
Well, when I worked there, I went to hearings and appeals, and then I became a supervisor. Well, it was in 2018. I kept getting this vision, and God had promised me this before, but you don't think that you even deserve it, let alone
Mhm.
pursue it.
Correct. Right. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
started watching kids in 2018 on the weekend, and in August of 2018, I had no idea I was going to quit that day. I did not want to quit.
Right.
I love that job, but I quit with $246 in my pocket. God was just like, pack your stuff, pack it. And I said, okay, well, maybe I'm packing. And then later on, I'm going to, leave. But I started packing and it just started flowing. And
Wow.
2 weeks after I quit my job with $246, I didn't have insurance or anything. I found out my daughter had a brain tumor, a
Wow.
massive brain tumor. Yeah,
Wow.
and she underwent surgery in October, and that was really a rough time. Uh, Her and my son both were sick at the same time. My son has Crohn's and an incurable liver disease.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let me see if I get this straight. So, okay, you had a vision, right, to incorporate the brand. You took the necessary steps to get the education,
Yes.
and you felt that things was really moving in a positive direction, and then life threw a curveball at you.
Way curveball.
Right. I
A
mean,
huge curveball.
so how did you okay, so how did you
Ooh.
overcome that hurdle? Because for a lot of people, that would be crippling. That can set a person back years and years because you mentioned prior to that that you decided to get therapy. So how was that experience like on top of everything else?
Yes. Well, we kept taking my daughter to the emergency room. She kept saying she had a headache, and they kept sending her back saying she had the flu. And
Mm.
then in September, she had been about 5 times to the emergency room, and then finally they did an MRI, and they said you need to hurry up and get down here to the hospital. And I mean, I had no idea. It just and so anyway, she had to have surgery immediately, but because she had been working previously and didn't have insurance. She had just started a new job. We didn't have the funds to get her surgery. So we had to go through the hospital. And when we first went through the hospital, she would have made too much that month. So
Mm.
we ended up not being able to get the surgery till October, the end of October.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so she had major surgery from one ear to the other. They cut her entire
Wow.
skull. Yeah, her brain tumor was right here. Um,
Oh
then it came back in 2020, and she had to have radiation in 2021, and she still has about 26% left, and she still has complications. So
Yeah. Wow.
yeah. So what happened was my mom came and helped me. And I had my neighbor came and helped me as well. And they watched the kids while I was at the hospital. Because I had my granddaughter. She was with me. And so um I just I had support. I had family support. My brothers came. Everybody supported me. I had a really good friend that was with me during that time, and her dad. So we all kind of pitched in where we could, um, to help out. But my mom really ran, and my neighbor ran the daycare for me while we were going through this. So it was a really tough time. It was a really tough time. I wasn't making the rent. I wasn't able to pay my bills. Um, I ended up in February. I was like $2,440 behind. I was getting ready to get evicted, and I was like, okay, what am I gonna do now?
Hmm. What was the turning point to where things start turning around?
I had heard this. I was When I was married, I had heard TD Jakes talk about, what do you have in your hand? Because I would always make excuses about what I needed to get started. So I would procrastinate and procrastinate. Oh, I need this, I need that. And I decided, what do you have in your hand? What can you use right now to get this business started and go? And I had everything that I needed right there. God gave me everything that I needed to get started. So I decided then that I was not going to give up. I wasn't going to give up. I couldn't give up. I couldn't give up. Trying to show my kids that this is the way that, you know, this is the way that we're going to live. We're going to be open. We're not going to hide anything. We're going to live a different life. Because, I ended my marriage. I walked away from it because, I was dysfunctional. I'm not going to, it's not, it was both of us. I'm not even going to sit here and act like it was one person.
Right.
We really needed help. Um, so I just decided I wasn't gonna give up. I wasn't gonna give up. And I was gonna be the person that I always wanted to be. I always had my voice. I felt like my throat chakra was shut down
Mm.
because I would always go along and get along, but I had to not quit and I had to continue going. Um, my kids were dependent on me. And
It
my
sounds it sounds like to me that you found out, you truly identified your why, and you mix these two elements, in which I'm going to talk about for a few seconds: purpose and passion.
Yes,
And allow me to explain. Your purpose is basically that thing that you love to do. It really inspires you, and you're like, wow, like, you know what? This is me. It is that thing. Passion is what keeps you going. It
yes,
wakes you up in the middle of the night when things is going south. It still gives you that motivation, that drive, that intuition, right? Like, no matter what, like, you just love, like, every time you think about it, every time you talk about it, right? You just become literally obsessed with
yes.
it. So it sounds like to me, Miss Cheryl, that when that happened, it combined with everything else in which that you was doing, the passion and the purpose was mixed together, and thus is the reason why we have you on here as of right now. Is that a fair assessment to say, or?
That is a fair assessment. I knew that I couldn't stop. My kids were watching me, and that was my why. My grandkids. I did not want them to live life like I did, fearful, scared, afraid. I wanted them to live their life and live out their passion and their purpose, and that's what I wanted for them.
Excellent, excellent. For all those that's tuning in once again, welcome to Transformation Greatness, along with the Small Business Network podcast. And we have here our amazing guest here that's very inspiring, by the way, Miss Cheryl Blunt. Miss Cheryl, can you let the listening audience know what is currently, what, in other words, I'm sorry, what are you currently doing as of right now?
Right now, I'm working on a chapter called in. an anthology called Unshakable Faith. I'm working on that right now, and I'm not sure exactly when that'll be out. It was supposed to be out in December, but I believe that we're going to be prolonging it till January. And I'm really excited about Unshakable Faith. And I had to think about Unshakable Faith. Wow, to keep going when things are rough, to keep going when all the weight is on your back, that's really hard to do. So I'm working on that, and I just last year the book was released, Alive to Thrive: Life After Attempting Suicide, in November of 22. Right now, we're this month, our nonprofit is taking on a senior citizen home with 100 individuals, and we're just gonna go down there and show them so much love and take some things down there for them um, to enjoy and embrace. So that's what we're doing right now.
Excellent, excellent. And I believe that you're a coach as well, correct?
Yes, I'm a certified life coach and an art therapist. I love art. So I love teaching through art. And we've
Mm.
had some events. We do our vision board event every year. We also combined our art therapy last year. We have a mental health awareness month, which is May, and then we also have a kids day that we do every year in July because that's our anniversary.
Right.
We go down and take bags down to the our homeless community here in Indianapolis, Indiana. Around October and November, we take coats and things like that. So and we also volunteer at Riley Hospital. We go down there and make breakfast and lunch and dinner for them from time to time. So I'm super excited about that.
Wow, wow. I got a question to ask you too. Since
Mm-hmm.
that you mentioned that you're a life coach and also an art
Yes.
therapist, I think you said?
Yes, I'm an art
Okay,
therapist. I love
cool,
it.
cool. What have you learned about yourself, Miss Cheryl, once that you became a life coach and an art therapist?
I learned that first, um, you have to listen to people. People want you to listen. They need you to listen to them. They want to express themselves, and the first thing that I have to do is listen. So I learned that. I also learned that I had so much more to offer than I thought I did. Um, People do identify with my story, but I see what I really enjoy is to see them thriving. Man, that's so huge for me. The people that I've worked with, one for example, in 2019, I went to tell my testimony for the first time in front of a church,
Right.
and my the one of the girls that was there was in the shelter, and I'm so proud of her because she was in the shelter, and she was struggling, with addictions as well, and now she has her own nonprofit, stuff like
Wow.
that. We've stayed in touch since that time. Things like that just really motivate me. A lot of my daughter's friends, I talk to them and they can call me anytime, and you know I also facilitate a Genesis process class, which is an addiction recovery. And we
Mm.
do that. I do that 6 months out of the year. I've been doing that since 2019.
Okay.
Um, I took the class myself and then I started facilitating, and that is huge. You teach people how to respond instead of react.
Mm.
You're helping them to identify where their pain is coming from. I love that class. We're getting ready to start a new class in January. And if anybody would like to join, it's a free class. I buy the book for you. You just have to make the commitment.
And you said it's Genesis Recovery?
Genesis process. And I'll have to show you the book. I don't have the book with me right at this moment, but it's a Genesis process class, and it's a recovery class, even if you, and not just drugs and alcohol, it's
Okay, yeah, because
recovery for anything.
I was about to ask you that, like,
Yeah,
what does it encompass? Okay.
yeah, we've had so many people that had childhood trauma that just needed to get it out, needed to release it, and needed to share with somebody and hold them accountable to make the changes they needed to change their life. So I'm real excited about that class. I love that class and I love teaching it and the beautiful women that come through there.
It's something that you just said very powerful, accountable.
Hmm.
Because as being a life purpose coach and a hypnotherapist practitioner myself, one of the things in which that when I'm doing one-on-ones with individuals, yes, everyone wants to be heard, right? Because I mean, it's a lot of trauma, it's a lot of stuff that happens, especially,
Yes.
the as we get older, this thing called life, right? But it's another thing, and this is what I had to learn through my own journey, right? It's another thing to speak on that and do like a brain, I'm sorry, yeah, like a brain dump, so to speak, or a
Yes.
spiritual dump. But if you're not willing to now take the steps in order to improve and to change that, then what happens is that you are basically in the same place. You're in the
Yes.
same spot. And so with that, along with mindset, I learned it's very, very important. And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast, because like you, Cheryl, and many people that know me, right, they know that homelessness is definitely a part of my story. They understand and know of the struggles that I had, right? Especially with having an inferiority complex, especially with growing up the way that I grew up, right? They didn't even know who I was, right? They didn't even know my identity, let alone, right? So with all these different dynamics that's happening into my life and a lot of traumatizing events, granted, I had a choice, much like you, much like many overcomers. I could either just play the victim mode and stay there in victim mode and worries me. And guess what? By society wise, they would say, okay, well, you're
Yep.
you're you're a victim like so many other people. Don't worry, we'll take care of you, right? Or you can rise to the occasion, and this is where divine intervention for me stepped in, and you can start to understand the gifts that the creator has given you and now get to work.
Yes.
And thus transformation greatness was birthed out of pain. It was birthed out of being at my lowest point. So I deal with you in terms of the pain and with the struggle and with the internal struggle. And I believe that's the reason why when me and you speak, whether it's in front of
Yes.
thousands of people, even on the live stream or the broadcast, we're so authentic and real and raw. And by the way, we can care less what another person thinks because we understand as far as on what God has done for us, and more importantly, we understand the assignment because it is an obligation and a responsibility
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we have and have alone. And whether people want to come on board the boat, right, and really support us or not, we still have a job to do. Is that fair to say?
Yes. That is very fair to say. I don't. I've been at the bottom, and people threw me away. They threw me away, but God didn't throw me away.
Come on now.
He had a plan for me from the beginning.
Come
And
on now.
I used to argue with God. I used to say, God, why me? Like, what? Why are you keeping me alive? Suicide attempts. We would have a whole argument, conversation.
Absolutely.
I'm like, what? What do you want from me? Like, what
Been
is
there.
it? And
Been
and
there.
so I could not let God down. He was there when nobody else was there. I had so many. There were so many dark times. Even as an forget the childhood trauma. This adulthood trauma has been extra crazy for me trying to step out of my comfort zone
Correct.
and create the life that God would want me to have. And I have been on my knees more in the last couple years than I ever had before because
Right.
it is hard work and you do have forces fighting against everything you're trying to do. So you have to really take care of yourself, like I said in the last podcast. Um, You really have to get the rest you need. You have to stay in the word, because it is really tough to build one business, let alone several. And I want to stay authentic. I want people to know what I'm really going through and not fake it. I don't want to fake it. I want to be me now, and I want to know what I want and know what I like. I didn't even know what color I like, because I would
Mm.
go along with other people and I'm like, what color do you know? And I'm thinking like, man, I really don't know what color I like. You
Right.
know, you
Right.
know, and that's how cut off I was from myself and disconnected. And I'm just so glad that God gave me the opportunity that He gave me. So I wouldn't take back anything that I went through. Do I have regrets? Of course I do. But I wouldn't, all the things I went through made me who I am today. And I
Absolutely.
love people and I have empathy for people. And when I coach, I always say, hey, what can I, before I start coaching them, I ask what is it that I can add, how can I add value to them? Because if I
Mm.
can't give you anything or I can't help you, then I won't take you on as a client, because I don't want to. I'm not. A lot of times I don't even charge, because it's real hard for me to monetize everything that I'm doing, because God didn't monetize me. He didn't make me
Mm.
pay to be
Mm.
delivered. He didn't make me pay to to heal from recovery and all the pain. So it's really, really super hard for me to charge people to do things. When I see you're hurting, I'm not trying to charge you for that. I want to come to you and help you in any way that I can. So, but God has been good to me. I can't complain. My kids are still here. My three beautiful children and two grandkids, they are everything to me. And I just want everybody to be able to experience healing.
You know what? I've been listening to you, Sister Cheryl, and you already know how I feel about your brother, Eric Collier. Shout out to my
My
brother.
brothers are amazing.
He is a powerhouse, a powerful
Yes.
speaker. But in my opinion, he ain't got nothing on you, Miss Cheryl. My goodness. I'm sorry,
That's my
brother
little
Eric.
brother. Yes.
Yeah. If you hear
Amazing.
this, man, I still got nothing but love for you. But yeah,
Yes.
you got a lot of work to catch up to your sister. So you touched on something, and I want you to dive into that a little bit more deeper. So, what can a person expect when they work with you as being a life coach and also an art therapist? What can a person expect?
Well, first, I like the art first, because once we start talking and how you fill up your cup and how your cup is filled, and you just get people to relax and start, you know, with their art, coloring or whatever it is that they want to do, and they're talking and you're asking them questions, how do you fill up your cup? What's your cup full of? And then you start noticing, okay, they have a lot of stress, or they have, this happening in their lives. So I try to talk to people first to see where they are. You got to meet them where they are. And if you're not willing to meet them where they are, then you shouldn't take them on, because a lot of people are in low places. And I know
Sure,
a lot
that's
of
true.
people say, don't pick up the phone, don't do this. You know what? I have people on the edge of suicide sometimes. I have people that need for me to listen to them. And so I
True.
can't just not, and I don't cut it off. And I know I need to cut it off now. I need to set boundaries. But when you're talking about people's lives and people's children and people's mental state, sometimes that can't wait. And I'm
Do
not a therapist. I'm
right.
a certified life coach. So there's sometimes when I do have to um, resource them to someone else that can help them better. But there are people that need help right now, and we have to be that person. God put us in that. Oh, what am I trying to say? He puts us in the middle so that they can meet us, so
Absolutely.
that we can help, and you can't walk away from that. There's times I want to walk away, I'm like, this is too heavy for me. You know, I got my own stuff going on. This is really heavy. And it triggers me sometimes. It does. It triggers me sometimes. And sometimes I still have therapy. I have a mentor. I have a coach.
Absolutely.
I still do my therapy because it's not something. Now I'm not as traumatized about my childhood as I was, but
Right.
there's things happening with my children that traumatize
Of
me.
course. Of course.
So I still need therapy, and I think everybody needs therapy at some point.
I'm glad you mentioned that because one of the things I learned, especially when I went to school for hypnotherapy, shout outs to the HMI Institute if my colleagues is listening, right? One of the things in which that I've learned is that, and this is the reason why I love hypnotherapy. Oh my goodness, I just absolutely love it. Is because when you are doing the type of work that we do, right? Especially when you're going deep into the subconscious level, there's going to be things that's going to come up that's going to trigger you, right? And having a continued support in the therapy is a very, very important, very much so important.
Yes,
And I also learned too, and this is something too, Miss Cheryl, because you mentioned at certain times you can even get triggered. I'm pretty sure you might have heard of this term, uh, transference and countertransference. You might have
yes,
heard that before. Okay.
yes.
So
That's
based
very.
right. So you definitely for yourself, you want to be able to set boundaries or what I can offer you for free
Yes.
on here is to create an anchor, right? When you create an anchor, and I don't know if you're familiar with that term,
Mhm.
but, but an anchor is something like you can either visualize or it can be like something that's very important to you. Like for an example, I don't know, this pen can maybe remind you of you being straight and narrow. Just
Mhm.
one as an example. So just to give you an example, right?
Yeah.
Something crazy as that. But when something happens, and this is why learning your triggers is very important,
Yes.
that when that comes up, you can then mentally have an anchor in place that will keep you grounded because just like you mentioned, we're working with human beings by the end of the day, and
Yeah.
everybody has something, right? And some,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, is very, very heavy, and some is like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, yeah, I feel you. But by the end of the day, it's human beings. So I'm glad that you were being very what's the word I'm looking for? Transparent with that as well. So I believe
Yes.
that's something that me and you, Miss Cheryl, because we're like in the same I don't want to say niche, but I guess same arena, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. I believe that we can definitely in the near future, like do some projects and some different
I
things
would love
because
that, Sean.
yeah, I
I would
truly
love
be-
that.
I truly believe with the kind of assignment that we have, we can reach so much more people when we collaborate.
Yes.
Miss Cheryl, I want to ask you this, because obviously, you're a life coach, you're an art therapist. So, if individuals want to get in contact with you and they want to find out more about your courses, find out more about your services, how can they get a hold of you by any chance?
They can go to my website. It's www.icameoutofit.com. And then we also have www.kidsretreatfamily.org. And that's our 501c3. We all of our events are free. I mean, we don't charge for any of our events for our nonprofit. And we have free events that if you don't want to do the one-on-one coaching and you don't want to go through the sessions and everything, you can always come to our one-on-one events. I had a girl tell me at one event, it just really shocked me because I wasn't even going to go to this event. Somebody invited me and I thought, you need to really go to this event. I step out of my comfort zone a lot now because I don't want fear to stop me from any opportunity.
Absolutely.
So I
Absolutely.
step out of my comfort zone and I went to this event And I told my story, and I didn't even really tell my story. I just told a little. I don't know if I had maybe 5 minutes. So she came up to me and she said I was gonna jump off a bridge or something. And I really thought she was playing. I said, well, she's
Okay.
just playing. But this lady, she was so she was so kind and she was so loving, and I was so glad that I got to meet her beautiful spirit and give her some words of encouragement, because that's what keeps me going, is to make sure that I'm in the right place at the right time where God wants me to be. I try to be obedient, because when you're not obedient, sometimes you miss helping somebody, or you miss whatever it is you're supposed to do at that time. And it's very important for us to be obedient.
Very powerful. I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. I agree. So, Miss Cheryl, I'm just looking at the time here,
Hmm.
and actually, we're close to about an hour, about 50 minutes, which for everyone that's tuning in, if you catch this live on the replay, I told you guys when I created the flyer, I told you this is something that you don't want to miss. This is going to be very, very powerful. And I believe, as far as that, I delivered on the goods. Miss Cheryl, what is it that, and I want to do a little devil's advocate with you,
Hmm.
right? I'm
Okay.
pretty sure I'm pretty sure you're familiar
Hmm.
with that. You've been watching my podcast, so you know
Hmm.
how I do it, right? So everything in which that you said was amazing, fantastic. But I believe there is someone out there, man or woman, that's watching this podcast and they're saying, you know what? Miss Cheryl, major props for you, sister. I mean, you came a long way. I salute you, man, and I wish nothing but great things for you, in 2024 and beyond. But I ain't there yet. I ain't there yet. I got too much going on in my personal life. I got too many demons that I'm trying to arrest. I need to do this on my own. I ain't comfortable. Look, no disrespect, but I don't know you or Shawn like that. I ain't trying to tell my business out to everybody like that. You feel me? Let me go ahead and work this out, and then maybe in a year or so, when I'm ready, I will then get to help, right? And as far as with the business is concerned, yeah, I got some ideas, but I don't know, man. Michelle, I just got a lot of bills. Kids are still in school. I'm trying to wait for them to at least graduate high school. Blah blah blah. A, B, and C. You get the point.
Yes.
My question to you, and I want you for the last 8 minutes or so. Take as much time as you need. If that person was sitting right in front of you on Zoom or even face to face, and they just told you all that, how would you address to them in your most authentic but transparent way? The floor is yours.
Okay. First of all, time is not on our side, and you may not have that time that you need um, to change your life around. So get busy now. The relationships that's been broken, um, that if you have children and you're not talking to them, um, you don't have time to wait to get better. I really would advise them to ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. I really hate that I waited so long to ask for help and I waited so long to share my story. We don't have time um, to just sit and wait. And find somebody that you're comfortable with. Find somebody that will hold you accountable. Find somebody that will walk you through it, because there are people that will walk you through it to help you get to the place where you you want to be. We all have things we want to change, and we need to start now. A lot of us, just like myself, me and my mother were estranged for a long time, and it wasn't until I shared my story that things started changing with my family. So a lot of things can change. We try to hold back. We try to not show our real and true selves, but that's what people need to see. They need to see you. Who are you? Who are you really behind all the facade? Who are you? And you need to let that out, and you need to work with somebody so that you can get all the benefits and all the love that they have to give you to help you come out on the other side, and for it not to be a rocky road. You can have somebody hold you accountable. You can learn um, by somebody else's experience, and it doesn't have to be something that's harsh. um, Find somebody that you care about, find somebody that cares about you and that you feel comfortable with to share, because we need to ask for help. In our country, we don't ask. It's, first of all, mental health and things like that are shunned upon in our community and in the
Exactly.
United States. And
Exactly.
for me to say, hey, I lost it, I fell apart, that's shunned upon. You shouldn't, that's, nobody wants to say that, hey, I don't want to share that. But when you share that, then you give other people the opportunity to share, and that you give them the confidence to want to share. So ask for help. That is the main thing. And be obedient. If God is speaking to you and he's putting it in your heart and your mind what it is you should do, then you have to go with that. You have to go with that. You have
Absolutely.
to follow that. That's the Holy Spirit trying to guide you. Follow that.
Mm, powerful, powerful. Last question for you, Cheryl, and then I'll let you go. This has been an amazing podcast. Is anybody getting any value out of this? I mean, you guys have been quiet, but at the same time, I really can't see comments. You guys probably been commenting up a storm, and I can't see anything. What can we expect from the Cheryl Blunt in 2024?
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
My goals in 2024, definitely I sacrificed my house for the daycare. The kids have all my rooms except for my bedroom in my
Right.
bathroom, as you see. I love it, but I'm ready to move into a space where the kids have their own space, and we have a building that will house Kids Retreat
Wow.
LLC and Kids
Wow.
Retreat nonprofit. That's what we're looking for right now. A building, someone that will come alongside. I don't mind somebody coming alongside, that can make it even a better place, for us to be. And I would like to do all of our work out of that building, and then have my home to be my home, because sometimes I like to kick up my feet. Right now I work about 14 hours a day. I don't stop until about 9 or 10,
Mm,
because I have so much going on. And I don't regret it, but it's time to go to the next level with Kids Retreat.
absolutely. So for anyone that's listening, and
Mhm.
that if you know of any sponsors, or you know any funding, if you know of anyone that after listening to this that would love to be an asset and to really add on to the mission and vision of Miss Cheryl, by all means, please feel free to reach out either to myself or reach out to her. She's most certainly going to provide you with all the contact information. So make sure, Miss Cheryl, that you provide the
Yes.
website, the email address, all your social media handles, because I truly believe that as Facebook allows for us to play, more people is going to get access to watch this. They may not watch the whole thing, but they'll watch bits and pieces, and they really will be inspired. I believe the right people will truly be inspired, and they will want to help and support. And I truly, truly believe that. I truly do. I truly
I'm
do.
just so honored to be here, to be on here tonight, Shawn. I'm honored that you even asked me to be on your show. You have so many great people on here, and to be a part of your podcast just really touched my heart.
Thank you. Thank you. I definitely appreciate that. And if you know me, this is just the beginning, because 2024, I'm like you. I got like, well,
Yes.
that'll be another topic for another day. This is not about me. It's about you. So that'll be no topic for another day. Miss Cheryl, any lasting words that you have for your listening audience? You have done amazing.
All I can say is don't give up. We go through a lot of things in life, And sometimes we come across a lot of distractions to keep us from what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And all I can say is, don't let those distractions keep you from going after all that God has for you. Don't let the enemy stop you from getting everything that God has for you, because he does have something for you. Um, it's so hard sometimes. I could say that all day long, but I'm human too, and it happens to me. I am not. I go through the same things you guys go through. I just push forward and could continue to be obedient, and I just go one step at a time, because that's all I can do. Sometimes I can only go a half step at a time,
Right.
but I'm continuing to move forward. And as long as you continue to move forward, whether it's a step, a half step, a moment, continue to move forward in your journey, because it's not always going to be like this. If you're having a hard time, it's not always going to be like this. This too shall pass. And
Absolutely.
you have to just do not give up. We need you. We need you. Your family needs you.
I love it. I love it.
Mm.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes episode, I believe, 165 of Transformation Greatness, along with the Small Business Network podcast. You have heard it first from the powerhouse herself, the Cheryl Blunt. And for all those that have events, for all you speakers, yeah, I'm talking to you. If you're looking for someone that's going to come ahead and rock the house, that's going to motivate and encourage and inspire people, that's really going to more so have people think and come out there with a spirit of never give up, I highly recommend for you to reach out to the Cheryl Blunt. And by all means, do it very, very quickly, because once that, I'm telling you guys, you know how social media is. Once that she becomes a household name, oh, it's over. It is over. I'm just saying. So until then, family, we appreciate you so much. Hey,
Thanks everybody for
this
joining
has
in.
been
Mhm.
absolutely amazing for all those. If you loving this and you're like, hey, I would love as far as to be a guest on your podcast series because I have a story and a message, please feel free to reach out to me. Also, as well, if you ever thought about having like TV and radio opportunities, we can discuss that as well, and many other exciting goodies that I have as well down the pipeline. So until then, family, we're gonna sign off, and I'm gonna close this segment like basically do all my others. And if what we stated on here either motivated, transformed, or inspired at least one person,
Yes,
then may God be the glory, and we take no credit for absolutely none of it.
that's
Until
it.
then, you've been all amazing. We thank you so much for your time. And by His grace and mercy, look forward to seeing you all on the next episode.
Thanks
Peace and love, family.
everybody. Have a
Take care.
great week.
Absolutely. Happy holidays, by the way.
Thank you.